Okay. So first, hi guys, it's me, Luden. We're friendly, everyday, not safe for work artists. What I have to date is fan art from my friend, Dejumi. And basically, I just want to give them some tips and tricks to make their art just a little better. Um, so this is like the piece they gave me. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna group all this and put it in the folder. Now, I've never really made videos before. Um, any video I've ever made is usually for playtesting. So I'm just gonna be like rambling. I don't really want to edit this. Just sort of a live tweet sort of vibe. Okay. So first I want to. So usually when I draw with a slightly gray background just because it helps with, not being so bright. Um, that's just a me thing. I've noticed other people doing it as well. Um, it's just usually, I don't know, it helps a little bit. Let me see if I can. I don't think it's letting me change that color, but it's okay. I'll just paint it. Okay. So, first off, I just want to say, just give some notes first. Give me a little bit more way to instruct, I guess. So, first, I love this goblin. I love the face. I'd helped them before with the face. Things we want to work on. Um, want to work on. I think first and foremost, line quality. So that is basically. I know that this is like a textured brush. Um, but obviously you can see where there's places where you're drawing like this rather than just like this, which is something as a digital artist you have to really change from like traditional, because traditional lets you sort of do that, right? It lets you get away with like sketching like this, but it's just not conducive of like neat and nice line art, more or less. um so we're gonna work on line quality first. Second, I think we'll do color and shading. Because, like, your flats are fine as far as flats go. So we'll do shading. And I think what I'll do also as well is give some. I guess I'll start with anatomy. Do some anatomy tips. So, you know what we're doing here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Just ignore that. Don't know why that's there. Actually, no, we want to ignore it. We'll just make a new layer. Fill it. So you don't have to figure out what's going on. So, for the most part, anatomy is pretty decent. I mean, I know that you used our reference for it. That's just good. I think when you're using a reference, the thing you have to do the most is what you have to work on is learning why things are the way they are, right? And how they are connecting. And most traditional art is built on the assumption that you need to learn like every muscle group, how all the muscles interact and like all that. I've never done any of that in my life, and I could never sort of get away with doing that kind of stuff. I think the biggest part would be this right here. Because first off, one thing with anatomy in particular, and one thing that I've sort of stuck with, elbows are, so this would be the elbow here, right? Because in the crook of the arm, it aligns with the belly button. So this elbow here, because this you haven't brought the shoulder down, so this elbow could be down here if my shoulder was way down here, right? If my shoulder wasn't the same height as this one. So next time when you have two shoulders that are the same, you want the elbows to be the same. And anytime your shoulders move, your elbows will move in conjunction with this, because your arms are generally the same length most of the time, right? So this could go here. Like I said, I know that there was it was like a reference for this, which is good. But I think also when using references, it is very good to start with sort of changing it, like changing elements of it, so you're not dependent on just copying, more or less. You need to make an effort to make like your own creative choices, so that way you aren't just comfortable just copying other things that people have already done. So like for this example, for example, I would probably have move the arm this way. Maybe done something with the hand in this way, just to add just a little differentiation from your reference. Now, obviously, this comes with experience and knowledge, of course, of like anatomy and like your own artistic limits. But that's just something to keep in mind when you do use the references. Just don't rely wholly on the reference as itself. Sort of feel comfortable with understanding what's happening so that you can add your own flavors to it. I think because like when I grew up on the internet and like drawing, like I would always post my art on like Gaia Online and Photo Bucket. Like I'm super old, so like those things were where I first like started learning to draw on like DeviantArt when it was, you know, decent website. Um, but people were very harsh, and I didn't like it back then, of course. But I think now it's sort of made me a better artist overall, just because I'm not afraid to just hear opinions about what my art looks like, or I'm not too worried about like feeling bad about like tracing or trying to use the methods that are best for me to make art that I like, which I think is one thing that artists, especially new artists, especially in this like day and age with like AI and stuff, people need to really allow artists who are actually like putting in some work to have a bit more freedom when it comes to learning, because the traditional learning for art is not good for everyone. It's not good for me. I like all of the I do have a degree. I have 2 degrees in art, 2 bachelors, both in art, but like none of the stuff I learned in college was like anything new to me. I only got it to get the paper basically. Is I kind of wish I hadn't, but I mean it's irrelevant at this point. Um, I do think people still should still, you know, pursue education. Um, but it just sort of gets to a point where there's so much good education that's free online that it's almost, I guess, antithetical to actual education and like actually learning a skill that you can improve yourself over time. I think the traditional way of learning art and drawing is far is almost useless now for most people. I think when learning art, you should like in 2024, you should absolutely use every single tool available to you. So that means like AI, that means sketch websites, that means reference photos, Pinterest, all of it. Like use it to the absolute fullest, because um it's just going to put you ahead of others ultimately. And though that's a little bit weird to say, it is just, if you are seeking to be professional and make money from art, that's just what you have to do. And also find a niche audience, which is probably more important. But once you find a niche audience and you can produce things that your audience likes consistently, that's more important than anything else. Um, so I'm just fixing a little bit of the anatomy here. Like I said before, it's not bad. I would have just suggested just doing a little bit more like creative liberties. Um, and whatnot. Um, Also, these brushes that I'm using. Let's see if I can actually. I'm not sure. It's like a little pack I got from Clip Studio. Clip Studio is amazing for brushes, just free and paid. Even for paid, I'd highly suggest like getting gold for Clip Studio. And using the currency you get to buy materials. Because it's super super cheap. And some of the materials do a lot of like heavy lifting. And make just your job as an artist a bit easier. Um, So like, um, I usually go between two different sort of brushes. I did find a textured brush I really liked, but I'm sort of back on the really smooth line art sort of vibe. Just depends on how I'm feeling or the look I want to give my art. So one thing with arms, don't really need to define this as much. This upper bit, bicep. What is this? Your shoulder? I don't know what it's called. I don't know much about anatomy other than what it looks like. Mm. And one thing that can help a lot with showing volume in your art, especially when you're doing clothes like this that don't really have much shape other than like the body shape, is seams. So, like for this, or you could just see like a little like Adidas sort of vibe, like there's gonna be this here, right? This here, this here. See, automatically it adds a lot of volume and shows a bit more of what you're trying to express with the legs and whatnot. Well, I'm not very good at feet. I've gotten a lot better over the years. Um, I remember years ago I drew this night elf on Hentai Foundry, and someone was like, "God, it's just so beautiful, except her toes," and I was like, "What the fuck?" So I've sort of. It wasn't one of those. It wasn't one of those things I was offended about, but it was like a learning moment, I guess. I was like, "How do I draw feet?" But I'll give you some. I'll give you like the little tips that I usually go by. Um, or how I sort of just do things more or less. So, with the foot, there is two basic shapes, right? There's the triangle, which is your heel, and then there's a rectangle, which is the rest of the foot, right? And then it's connected. However, it's connected. Okay. This is more of a shoe shape, just because it's a little higher on the toes. But like down this way would be more of a foot, right? So how we apply that here is this is the heel. It's always good, especially with female feet. You want to always sort of like bend the top of the foot a little bit, just because it is a little bit more feminine overall. And I have a small trick for toes. Not really, it's kind of. So I usually like to put the first toe out like this, just to give it, you know, the language of a foot. Um, then feet are just like little hot dog beans. Or toes are just little beans, little hot dog beans. And you just do them like that. Takes a little bit of fiddling. That's also one important thing I think that has really changed my view on how I draw. It was actually told to me by one of my professors in college. He said that like art when drawing is more akin to sculpting than just drawing lines. So that's how I usually tackle art itself. I sculpt with lines more than I just actually am like a mechanical drawer or mechanically putting down lines in a certain way. I'm sculpting until it feels correct, which is something hard to teach simply because the correctness is usually skewed for other people. It's sort of an eye of the beholder sort of thing. It just comes with looking at a lot of images, and just sort of knowing what other people like looking at, more or less. Um, so usually, so that is usually what, um, how my process would go with like feet. I really like to draw pigeon toes. I don't know if that's correct term for it these days. Because I stand pigeon toed in real life sometimes. So that's usually just how I draw feet for females. And with toes, they're a lot similar to fingers, right? So say like this is going off the edge, right? It's like far away, so you don't have to really detail out these ones over here. They can just sort of fade into a couple of lines and they still read correctly. Just because they're placed relatively well. That's really all you have to consider when drawing, I think. It's more about things being placed correctly, or relatively correctly in a way that like fits your style or the anatomy type you're going for, um, rather than completely anatomically correct. Mm, so, okay. So this is probably just about what I would do. I probably have to do like a longer explanation of hands because also it's like one of those things that I've, I've drawn so many over my lifetime. It's just like a feeling that I get now. There's no like correct way that I'm doing anything. It's just how I feel about it at the time. Um, so we will. We'll move to the face. I think we did the body pretty well. I'm gonna save as. The face is really good. I know it was something that I helped you with before. Um, or I helped my friend with before, who I suppose will probably be the only person that really watches this video, but you know, I'll probably upload it so everyone can get some tips and tricks. So with the face, it's really good, really cute. I really like how you did the eyes. I really like your simplified sort of shapes. We'll see with your sort of vibe. So eyes, just because I know that these are pretty well done. If anyone ever has questions about them, just feel free to ask. My eyebrows, I usually like to draw my own eyebrows a lot thicker just because I just like them. So with nose, one thing I do notice, you do a little bit more of an anime style nose, which is fine. I just prefer to add just a little bit more detail, just because it can add like the noses in general can add a lot of personality to people. And they're just cute. I know they could be a bit harder to draw. But I think the main thing you just have to like sort of think. So you keep this sort of the bridge of the nose. And then when you have the tip, so like this itself is good, right? Like this would be a standard like anime like nose, right? But you just have to add a couple more lines. So like this for the tip of the nose, a nostril, and the side of the nostril. Like already that adds just a whole lot more information and personality to the piece itself. Sometimes you could draw the other nostril. I like to. It doesn't. It just depends on your personal preference. Use a smaller brush. And when drawing piercings, just especially when you're doing like more cartoony vibes, usually it's better to make it in a way that you can tell what it is, right? So understand like putting it this close up to the nose, like right up against the what is this called, the little thingy in the nose. I understand the appeal to that, but just pulling it down just a little bit more, even if it does look a little silly or a little out of place, it just reads better ultimately. Now for lips, I do like your simplified lip, but I think for female characters especially, top lip is always really good to include. So something like that. Even though I think my bottom lip is bigger than my top lip, so need to. Then we'll do like this. See, already it sort of adds like a bit more like personality to it. I think I would bring it up just a little bit as well. So like this, for example, like see that was just like this right here is just one line. but it's highly dictated by the pressure that I put in my pen. I do use this is a XP pen, Artist 16 second gen. It's a pink one. It's probably one of my favorite tablets I've ever had. It's got like a matte feel on it. Like on XP pen, I think is far, far, far superior to like Wacom. It's so much more affordable, and their support is just incredible. I've never had too many troubles with the tablet itself. And the one time I did have problems, they immediately sent me a replacement, and I didn't have to send the other one back, so. I just always recommend XP Pen, especially for like if you're starting to draw, or looking to spend more time drawing. It's a way better alternative to XP Pen. I've never had a Huon, but I heard that they're also pretty good. This is a screen display, so it is like a second screen. I only have a laptop, so it's a bit strange on the setup side of things. But it does the job, and I like it a lot. So we'll do here. Also adding just a little bit of angle on the lid opens up the eyes just a little bit, and adds a little bit more depth into the face when you're like reading it. And for ears are weird, but they are really fun in my opinion to draw. They're honestly one of my favorite things to draw are ears, which I guess is weird. But I have gotten compliments about the way I draw like elf ears and stuff like that, so maybe it's not too bad. Just out of cue more lashes. So ears can literally be anything, but there's like I would say like 4 components, right? So you need the outside of the ear. So I'll just do like this is the outside shape of the ear, right? Then you need like this top inner part, this bottom part, and then this is like the ear canal, right? And then just the little ridges. You can make any ear shape with just these 4 components, right? So like if I just wanted to do like a little elf ear, that's the outside, the top, the bottom, and then the canal and the lines. I guess that's 5, right? But like any shape can be made like that. There's just how I've always like, well, not always, it's just like a method I guess I've come up with over time where it adds just enough detail that it isn't like lost, and it's just not like a little round circle. Which always sort of especially like right here, so like right here how you have this like lined this way, this isn't bad, it's about the same as like what I'm drawing, right? But what you need to remember is how our ears look from the front or the side, or like, so this line here is going to go up, right? And then this line here is going to be coming out from the bottom, because like this is going to be like the little curve in the ear. So there's going to be it's just like angles and stuff like that. Of course, I don't draw ears perfectly or anything like that. It's just like the method I've come up with over time. I'm actually not sure what my ears look like personally. So we'll just do that for now. I'm gonna give it a little earring. Okay. Now, the next part, well, yeah, we'll do hair. So usually when I do hair, I draw the full skull first. Or at least what I assume that it would be, right? This is obviously way smaller than a human skull would be in real life. Um, yeah. Clean this up a little bit. So we will also draw. So one way to sort of do this part. One way to really sort of like translate or give the appearance of things being weighty or soft and plushy. So like breasts, hips, thighs is over. It's like being squished and closed, right? So right here, it's already pretty good, right? But a little simple thing you can do. So we do this little squared thing. And just erase a little side here and add a little curve. Because automatically it'll look like it's like sort of spilling over. If you just establish the shape of the shirt and then more or less like overflow it with whatever you're overflowing with, right? Okay. And then this is already really good, but the more depth you add in this little corner right here will be. So this is the chest, and this is the little pool, I guess you would call it. So same thing with like this part of the body. If you already have a character that is pretty soft, you have to decide if you want the clothes to press into the body or lay on top of the body. So this shirt already looks pretty tight on me. So we'll continue with that theme of the tightness. And we will just erase this a little bit and add a little, just a little curve. Just to show that it is pressing into the flesh. Like this. It's very subtle, but it translates very well overall. This one we don't really have to worry about because this is gonna like disappear. Obviously behind the neck. Now with chubbier characters or chubbier people like myself, so like my collarbone is really, it doesn't really show unless I'm bringing my shoulders forward. So it's not something you really have to show that much in a chubbier character. Just something a little bit more slight and less prominent. Also, another thing, I know I'm jumping around, this is just how I usually do my own art, so you just have to deal with it. I usually like to add a couple of hairs on the outside of the eyebrows. Also just adds a little bit more character. So through this process, I have made my brush smaller. If you ever do this, I do this often, like if I'm first concepting and then I just move into line art immediately, or I'm satisfied with the sketch and I just want to refine, just have to go over your lines. This is also a very good way to more familiarize yourself with just using longer strokes. In more getting a feel for you like your own art basically. Because it's allowing you to like redraw your things you've already drawn. It just adds a little bit more like muscle memory, I guess, in your brain. But I like to do this when most of the time I usually do a separate layer. But since this is just sort of a quick thing, just going over, refining, like I said before, sculpting. Just taking it to a place that I want it, rather than forcing myself to arrive at the place that I want to be at. I'm just evolving and morphing my art through line choices and changing things as I go, which I prefer to do, and that's just usually the best way for me to work overall when I'm drawing. So what we'll do now is the hair. So I'm going to show you sort of two ways you could do this or go about this. So the first is more like, so what you did with hair is not bad. It's just when you force yourself to draw hair like this, it will sort of overwhelm the image and read more like scribbles than actual hair. So what I usually like to do is just draw the shape out for the hair first. So even if it's just curly hair, you just want something a little bit more, uniform, right? So start with something like this, right? And of course this is on a different layer just so it can be changed at any point. So my hair in real life is very curly. I'm half black, half white. So I have like, I think it would be counted as like 2 or 3C. I'm not sure. But starting hair like this with just a shape first allows you, again, the sculpting sort of factor to it. So we just do the hair this way. We block out the initial shape. So this reads as curly hair, even though it's just a blobby shape, right? So in this case, what I would do is just sort of like what you did, right? So you added these outline things, but what you have to do, especially for curly hair, is deviate from the actual shape, or it's just gonna look kind of like silly and like scribbles. So you just want to draw outside of these. So when you're doing it like this, you're just adding a little bit more like personality. Oh, variation. Variation is very important. Especially when you're doing like more cartoony work. Even if it's just subtle variations, it really helps build like personality and character into your drawings, which I highly um advise, I guess, the best way to put it. So something like this. I won't do too much. But also there's another option, of course, and that is just a brush. Let's see if I have any here right now. Oh yeah, here we go. So there's a lot of these online. You can find them just about everywhere. I might end up making my own just because some of these can be very expensive for no reason. It's really strange to like gatekeep like hair textures, but you know. Um so this one is probably more akin to what my hair looks like in real life. Um so honestly you can probably just use like this shape right here. I'll duplicate it. Um to make this brush a lot smaller. And there's sort of wiggle it about. Oops. And of course, I would suggest these brushes for more of a realistic sort of art, I guess. But basically, they just add the illusion of more depth and more texture than what's actually there, right? But so that's similar to like what was done before, right? Where it's literally just squigglies. But the fact that it has like so much texture to it, it looks just more than just squiggles or scribbles, you know. And just varying the sizes as well will give you a bit more variation with the way it looks, more or less. Now, sort of like this, we can just Control T, shift a little bit better, more stylistic purposes. Don't want to block too much of her face out here. I like the shape a little bit better. There we go. That'll work for now. But I'm sort of good at it, right? Just adding more texture. And art is all about illusion. The illusion that something more is happening than actually is happening. Which is more or less what you have to master when you are drawing and then like putting it online, right? I'm not a huge fan of these brushes in general, especially for like this sort of hair type. Just because they're only really good for like dense hair textures, I guess I would say. I mean they still work, but they would just look better just because they don't connect. And these are the more popular um brushes, I guess you would say. Which again, they're very expensive for what they are. Oh no, did I draw the wrong layer? I didn't. But... yeah. We'll stick with this one actually, just because I like it a little bit better. You just put a little bit of more texture on it, just because it's cute. But these brushes they were pretty popular, like on Tumblr a few years ago. Um, But the artists themselves are not a big fan of them overall. There are a lot of free options like on Clip Studio Paint. And like I said, I'm considering making my own just because I think it should be a little bit more accessible to people. Now we'll just move to the glasses, which I'll also do on another layer, just to add a little bit more depth. Once we get to that. So these are my older glasses. My glasses now are more like round shaped. I'm still not very good at drawing glasses in general, even though I have them and I've always had them and I love glasses. But one thing, the reason I actually have these glasses in the first place is they are low, like bottom frame lens, which means the top part of my eye is not blocked by the frame, like in real life. And they're called anime glasses. I really like the half frame like anime glasses just because my eyes are big in real life. So I like showing my eyes up when taking pictures and stuff like that. So just sort of being able, I just always like those style of glasses. I wish people would make more of them. But this way we can some. Okay. So I think that'll be it for this part one, I guess, just because this is almost an hour now of me rambling. But the next part I will do coloring, and yeah, we'll go over shading. Yeah, thanks. If you want more cool tips and tricks, feel free to like and subscribe. Wherever I post this at. Maybe I'll just post this on Patreon or something. Or for free. Yeah.